happy and excited and surprised to be here all in one. I'm 3 weeks old, being retired. And everybody in my community and at my parish said, "What are you going to do?" I am taking a low-key sabbatical. I am doing nothing. So guess what? One of your people on your staff called me, would I substitute for somebody who couldn't come out of state for tonight? And how could I say no to this very important, critical issue of divorce in the world and in the church? So here I am, doing nothing. I was never married. I was never divorced. Some of the men in the North County support group used to call me the chartered divorcee because I was involved in the ministry for many years. So through a request from some of the men in St. Christopher Parish in Florissant to do something for divorced men, they attempted it and it kind of didn't work. And I came on the staff a little later, and the first summer, our group went to the University of Notre Dame for the National Conference of Catholic Divorced and Separated. And it was a fantastic experience for everybody. And it was founded by Father Jim Young, a young Paulist priest from the Paulist Center in Boston. And it changed lives, and it changed mine quite a bit. And so in North County, where our parish was, that flourished, and we had support groups in Arnold, North County, St. Charles, West County, South County, and some of them are still going. This ministry really changed my vision of ministry. I was in education all my life, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's wonderful. But you don't get into the issues of the families and the individuals in the same way as this experience does. So here at the shrine, many of you maybe don't know this, Father Figge, when I came to Belleville, had a very effective support group here. And Father Bill Johnson, Brother Bill Johnson, who is here tonight, I believe. Where are you, Bill? There he is. He had a wonderful support group and was very supportive of the group in Belleville and in St. Louis, and even on the national level. So two of the divorced women at St. Luke's Parish, and one of them is here tonight, said, "You were involved in the ministry in St. Louis. How about Belleville? Could something happen?" So that began at St. Luke Parish with wonderful support of the staff, the priests, and I don't know if you remember, but we were kind of underground. We were not accepted. This was not a legitimate ministry. In fact, our group in St. Louis invited the Paulist priest, who was the heart of the ministry, to speak to the priest in St. Louis. And our group met him at the airport. And can you believe, in between, the Archbishop called off his talk to the priests, even though he had just come from Boston, and of course he came to our group. But that was kind of an atmosphere. So we are in a wonderful, accepting vision of ministry to anybody in that experience. And you know the story of the numbers. Statistics are just really terrible. Some parts, some years, some parts of the country, it's 1/3 of the marriages are ending in divorce. But there is so much hope in the process for these people in their lives. And when those two women went to the diocese in Belleville here, Bishop Wilton Gregory was very supportive. And as a result of that, through many years of hard work, next chapter is a support group in the diocese, and some of the people are here. And if you don't mind, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I am. They have gone through the process of this ministry and have flourished as individual people. And they're here tonight for this consideration of their life story in a certain way. Do you mind standing? So the wounds of divorce are really deep, and Pope Francis is calling for a field hospital where we can minister and not judge and not make up our mind, but to just be with people. And he has a wonderful theory, and there are little booklets out, and if I'm back in the parish, I'm going to get my parish to do this with the pastoral council. Accompaniment, the ministry of accompaniment, that you are with the person. You don't judge, you don't make up your mind, you accept. And not just divorce, but goodness, every human experience that's out there that we have some very negative and belittling feelings about. So how can the church, how can you in your families, in your neighborhood, in your parishes, support these people or these families? Because it raises issues, and it is the chief reason for people leaving the church today. So some of the issues, as you well know, are annulments, the remarriage issue without an annulment, and of course, the issue of the Eucharist. And Pope Francis is attempting to address that, and in some corners with not too much success. So how, again, in you, your job, your club, your environment, wherever you are, how can you help these people grieve? It is a long, painful grieving process. It can never, the grieving can never be turned off. It is, you have to deal with it. You have to go through the process. It will never leave unless you are into it. And a ministry is doing just that. So how can we be with people to listen, to love them, and definitely never reject them? Provide a safe place through prayer, through relationship with God, and their personal development. And I have to confess that I was more involved in the St. Louis group than I was in Belleville because of everything else I was doing with my life. I saw more emotional, spiritual, psychological growth in the divorced people who went through the process of the support group and the spirituality that was there very often than I saw in the pews. It doesn't mean that it was not there in the pews, but they were more directly involved in that process. And I can't go into the issue at all tonight, but you well know one of the critical issues of divorce is the children. No matter what the age, if they're 2 or 25 or 30 or 40, that is an issue that they theoretically and hopefully will be able to deal with. And divorce is a very deep wound because of the sexual intimacy that was there. And so the deep feeling causes a horrible betrayal. you feel totally betrayed. And so it's a long process. And in the church, there are many myths about this issue. They are not excommunicated. There is no reason why they can't go to communion. Mothers in my day at St. Louis were telling their sons and daughters, you can't go to communion. The children are not illegitimate. That was a legitimate relationship with the birth of those children. So there's a deep spirituality in that experience. And can you remember that every person is loved unconditionally by God? They, each one, are called in the universal call to holiness. They are not a total failure. The marriage was a failure. And hopefully we all can help totally integrate them into the life of the church. The remarried as well, to receive them with compassion and personal invitation. And if you listen to their stories, you will hear some horror stories about families and relationships and people. But we all can help to provide a safe, a loving, a spiritual environment, and this is one of the greatest needs of pastoral care. And many support groups, and this group used it, and I think they're still using it, a wonderful book called Rebuilding by Bruce Fisher. I think Brother Bill maybe introduced that way back. And there are many, many resources today for that life-giving process. And so that experience plunges every individual into the wonderful Catholic experience of life, death, and resurrection. They are a wonderful example of the Paschal mystery. And so hopefully you can follow what Pope Francis is trying to do with his accompaniment, with saying, talk to these people, sit down, not just divorce, but so many issues in the reality of our world. And so I'd like to close with reading a prayer from the book called Bless the Space Between Us by an Irish priest who died just a few years ago. And you might think of this, not just, most of you in this room are not divorced, but you probably somewhere along the way have suffered a broken relationship on some level. And just think of this. Now you endeavor to gather yourself and withdraw in slow animal woundedness from love turned sour and ungentle. When we love, the depth in us trusts itself forward until the empty space between becomes gradually woven into an embrace where longing can close its weary eyes. Love can seldom end clean, for all the tissue is torn, and each lover turned stranger is dropped into a ruin of distance where emptiness is young and fierce. Time becomes strange and slipshod. It mixes memories that felt the kiss of the eternal with the blistering hurt of the now. Unknown to themselves, certain small things touch nerve lines to the heart and bring back with color and force all that is utterly lost. This is the time to be slow, lie low to the wall until the bitter weather passes. Try as best you can not to let the wire brush of doubt scrape from your heart all sense of yourself and your hesitant light. If you remain generous, time will come good, and you will find your feet again on fresh pastures of promise, where the air will be very kind and blushed with beginning.